It's April 2026, Operation Epic Fury, and the Pentagon has officially upgraded its Middle East posture from strategic deterrence to global kinetic theater. Special operations teams are inserting into the region at an unprecedented rate, creating an unconventional warfare ecosystem that looks less like standard deployment and more like a networking event for Joint Special Operations Command. Make sure you are subscribed to Titan Mechanics and hit that bell icon. We deliver tactical intelligence on next-generation stealth tech and geopolitical strategy that others simply miss. And let us know where you stand right now in the comments. Drop a 5 if you support the US. Press 6 for Iran. Or hit 7 if you just want peace. Now, let's look at the intel. The current force package rolling into theater is essentially the military-industrial complex's greatest hits compilation. Special ops teams are networking hand-in-glove with close air support platforms like the A-10 Warthog, AH-64 Apache, and AC-130J gunships, all supported by advanced drones to ensure surgical precision during kinetic engagement. The A-10 and Apache have already achieved total air superiority over dynamic targets in southern Iran, systematically neutralizing suicide drones and optimizing those IRGC fast attack boats by turning them into modern art installations at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. This rock-solid close air support means that if these special operators need to execute limited footprint operations in denied territory, the A-10 is overhead, basically serving as the world's most protective 30mm GAU-8 Avenger cannon-equipped chaperone. But as Washington projects overwhelming power, Tehran remains in a very enthusiastic, albeit delusional, state of denial. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, continues to publicly dismiss American messages as negotiations and lacks any basis for trust, urging regional proxies to expedite the removal of American forces. We are deeply shocked. Deeply. But here's the geopolitical bombshell. President Trump just announced via Truth Social that Iran's new regime president, apparently possessing several more functional brain cells than his predecessors, has officially requested a ceasefire. Trump's response was characteristically subtle. A ceasefire will be considered only when the Straits of Hormuz are normalized, free, and completely uncontested. Until then, the strategy remains relentlessly blasting Iran's infrastructure back to the late Neolithic period, which we assume is a technical term for complete logistic collapse. This geopolitical strategy means Araghchi isn't actually on the negotiation invite list. He's essentially that person trying to get picked for the team long after the game has already ended, asking, "Guys, don't forget about me." While the US is already finalizing the deal with a completely different regime element. Araghchi isn't sleeping well right now, thinking there might be a legitimate fracture happening in the upper levels of his own civilian leadership, assuming any surviving IRGC commanders allow him a moment of rest. The scoreboard doesn't lie. The scoreboard doesn't lie. In the last 12 hours, Allied forces have executed 12,000 sorties, featuring B-52 Stratofortress strategic bomber runs penetrating deep into the Iranian mainland. A-10s are executing dynamic targeting, airborne commanders shifting target priorities in real time to neutralize newly identified mobile ballistic missiles that seem to possess a strange phobia of staying put, and development a nervous habit of wheeling themselves out of hidden mountain hideouts, only to be immediately removed from inventory. Isfahan was heavily saturated last night, home to critical air bases and those highly relevant nuclear-related facilities. But to truly verify if Iran's nuclear program has been completely neutralized or just temporarily inconvenienced, battle damage assessment requires the ultimate validation tool, boots on the ground physically testing the infrastructure. Options are key, and Washington is flooding the zone. Total U.S. forces in the theater now exceed 50,000, with JSOC rumored to have inserted between 500 and 1,000 Special Ops members drawing from the 75th Ranger Regiment, Navy SEALs, and Delta Force. The Rangers are optimized for rapid direct-action kinetic raids and airfield seizures. Able to insert via parachute, helicopter, or maritime assets, essentially arriving in style no matter how they choose to show up. These units can rapidly secure critical infrastructure, say an entire IRGC Navy base that has proven slightly too challenging for the standard precision bombing menu. The SEALs bring confirmed maritime expertise, specializing in beach landings, vessel interdictions, and covert reconnaissance, which is critical for battle damage assessment on hard-to-reach Iranian naval or nuclear compounds. We'd suggest they might execute underwater demolitions on coastal defenses, basically providing some unscheduled aquatic facility upgrades to Iran's naval remnant subs so that none of their capacity to execute chaos in the Straits of Hormuz remains. Delta Force operators are undoubtedly in theater, likely leading high-value target neutralization missions. Their ability to capture or eliminate key personnel with precision really can't be matched. They are like the ultimate, highly advanced surgical tool. And seeing one in the middle of the night while in your underwear is essentially the geopolitical equivalent of a terminal diagnosis. Ask former Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro how that worked out for him when they scoped him right out of his undies in the middle of the night. These Joint Special Operations Command assets represent flexible options for limited footprint operations in denied Iranian territory that are extremely hard to assess via overhead intelligence alone. Safeguarding Hormuz through coastal raids backed up by A-10S, prying that strategic waterway open violently fast, if they want to. Backed up by highly advanced unmanned underwater vehicles that can loiter beneath the surface like the manta ray, execute covert ISR missions, and independently launch drones or torpedoes. The U.S. military is essentially deploying the underwater equivalent of assassin drones to neutralize any asymmetric threat the IRGC attempts to deploy. The Rangers would likely lead these airfield seizures in the different ports we've seen that all basically have an airfield. They take the area, allowing U.S. operations to happen from those areas. The SEALs are basically high-level surgeons with a weapon, uniquely suited for these niche high-value targeting operations. Basically, SEAL Team 6 handles the niche operations where you need an actual surgeon with a gun. When it comes to actual amphibious operations, we have Marine Recon. Basically, they live in the water. Amphibious ops are the name of the game for Marine Recon, sending them in to secure ports, target assets, different underwater ballistic missions, to neutralize specific targets, or even close some of these little ports that are full of hundreds of these fast attack boats. If you just close off the entrance to these facilities, the boats cannot leave. Now you don't actually have to expend high-cost explosives on 100 of these little boats. You simply shut down the port itself. And obviously, Delta teams could execute surgical high-value target operations or even sensitive site exploitation, SSE, in heavily defended areas. Extracting intelligence, hard drives, safes, those places where the IRGC might be hiding their grubby little plans to show what they are going to be up to next, supported by the 82nd Airborne for larger-scale reinforcements. Tehran's limited response and continued rhetoric aren't helping their regime stability. CENTCOM just declassified that IRGC claims that they targeted American pilot housing in Saudi Arabia with a drone strike impacting a gathering of 200 people. It are false. IRGC leaders said the exact same thing about Dubai on March 28th, and it was false. It is false now for Saudi Arabia. 0 U.S. personnel have been attacked in Saudi Arabia by these assets, Iran is claiming, but they are guaranteed to keep going with that strategic deterrence. Right now, we possess a low-volume stretch of drones and missiles from Iran, but their non-state proxies are also lighting up. A few proxies might have actually hit that Kuwaiti tanker, and they are obviously firing missiles at Israel as well, but those are being systematically struck down by the Iron Dome. Cracking open a second front is Tehran's entire goal: to take the strategic focus away from Iran itself and force Israel to focus on the border. But they possess so many different kinetic options besides just occupying Karg Island. Now imagine how violently fast the IRGC could collapse once these ground teams totally gut their ability to receive funding by targeting Iranian steel production and energy flows. They would feel that pinch immediately, if their primary source of income starts to degrade, decisively removing Iran's remaining leverage by taking away their last big domino. Well, the other domino is the ballistic missile attacks, which are dropping dramatically. But now you network these special operations forces and you decisively remove Iran's capacity to threaten the Straits of Hormuz. The U.S. has degraded Iran's military-industrial complex so comprehensively that the regime is basically operating on strategic fumes. Washington has created massive geopolitical leverage while keeping the door cracked slightly for a deal with specific elements of a new regime, prying Hormuz wide open with amphibious assault forces that can seize shoreline positions, reconnaissance teams that can hunt down hidden threats, and combat engineers equipped with anti-mining drones to rapidly sweep and clear sea mines from critical shipping lanes, supported by specialized air assets, effectively turning any Iranian countermove into an authorized turkey shoot, and with hundreds of special ops in theater keeping the pressure on IRGC leadership C2 operations. We don't expect their ability to track ships in Hormuz to last much longer. Sound off in the comments below. Do you think Special Ops will neutralize Agarachi in the next week? Make sure you hit that subscribe button for Titan Mechanics, drop a like right here, and follow us on X and Instagram for daily intelligence briefings. As a reminder, all tactical analysis and intelligence provided on Titan Mechanics is strictly for educational and documentary purposes. We analyze geopolitical strategy and military hardware based on publicly available open-source data. We do not glorify conflict or incite real-world action. Stay informed, stay analytical, and we will see you on the next briefing. Titan Mechanics, signing off.